to this wetfish film odyssey. We are diving the SS Rondo in the Sound of Mull, Scotland. One of the few wrecks you can dive almost any time of the tide. However, the bow is still in a tidal race, so please be careful. Not only that, it's 55 metres deep. First, a little about the SS Rondo's history. She was built by Tampa Shipbuilding and Dry Dock Company of Florida for the British government under the name War Wonder, and finally the Rondo in 1934, 90 years ago. She sank off the west coast of Scotland on the 25th of January 1935 in the Sound of Mull while seeking shelter from a storm. This wasn't uncommon for shipping of the day. The First World War ended before she entered service, and the US Shipping Board then used it, and it was called the Lithopolis. She was sold to various Norwegian companies, becoming the Lorry and finally the Rondo in 1935. The ship stands almost vertically on a drop-off at 5632 north and 554 west, with the stern in less than 10 metres of water and the bow in 50 metres of water. Our route around the Rondo with directional arrows. Today I don't dive below 30 metres, lest my buddy wanted to go deeper, hence the extra green route. As you'll see in the film, I just wait and point the lights in his direction, and he returns safely. Here I am between the stern and the rudder, the place where the propeller would have been. When I dived the Rondo 40 years ago, the propeller was on top of the reef, next to the White Lighthouse, making it very easy to find the wreck. I dived the Rondo 25 years ago with my son Ben from our own boat. On a human scale, the Rondo seems dark, vast and foreboding. This is made more extreme by the fact that she is near vertical against the rock face in the water column. I have been to the bow, no mean feat 40 years ago, when she was much more complete. Time and tide are taking their toll on this beautiful wreck. The wreck is literally covered in life, plenty of fish in the shallow areas, and here brightly coloured sponges in a myriad of species. How well light and a tidal stream work together to provide homes and a place to live and breed. Here I am in the stern hold section. Today it's all collapsed down and is no more than a jumble of pipes and steelwork, almost unrecognisable as a ship. We are in the centre of the Rondo, where the bridge would have been. Little remains of what once was an imposing structure. Lots of nooks and crannies to explore to see what may be hiding. Wrecks, by their nature, can make you feel very alone. Even though in truth you never are, there is always life around you. And if you dive in a buddy pair, they're never far away. To be honest, I quite like the feeling of being alone, and underwater always feels like my natural home. Just now my 30-metre alarm has sounded. This is where I stay put. I am now waiting as my buddy Les moves off for his deeper excursion. In this depth in the UK, life has diminished somewhat, and you never see daily anemones much below 25 metres. You can just see Leslie's bubble stream off in the distance and occasionally the flash of his torches from his video cameras. Divers behind me and Les in front of me. I am surrounded. Thankfully he didn't spend long at 40 metres and I can see him on his way back. I've just kept my lights pointing in his direction so he knows exactly where I am at all times. We are back in the middle of the rondo, at the start of the front hole, heading towards the collapsed bridge. Some life is hanging on, mainly dead men's fingers, the aptly named sponge, seen widely at these northern latitudes. There are two colour varieties, white and bright orange. Heading over the starboard side of the ship, back towards the stern, for a look at the bottom of the ship and the rock face. I know from experience there is colour and a wide variety of anemones and sponges. In times gone by, the ship's side would have been 20 to 30 feet high. Today, it's barely 3 feet. Some salvage work and 90 years of being underwater in the sea have reshaped this now, making it habitat into little more than an extension of the reef the Rondo now sits on. It's as you'd expect, and as it should be. At this depth, white pulmos anemones crowd the whole of the metalwork. They are just so spectacular to see. Underwater, there is a constant balance to be struck between the amount of air in your buoyancy aids and the amount of air you've got to let out to stay safe and at the current depth. You may notice me occasionally holding on to parts of the wreck. This helps me steady the cameras. Note, I am very careful not to harm the life as I go. It's all too easy to think it doesn't matter. There is so much life down here. I suspect some of these anemones are as old as me and need to be treated with a little respect. After all, I am the visitor observing their world. Now you get to see the bottom of the ship and the reef all at the same time. You see the colour and density of life in all its profusion. How lucky am I to be able to dive and share this with you? reef under the stern is spectacular and full of life. At every turn, bright colours, soft corals and anemones, all thriving in clean, clear water, full of plankton. Just how it should be, and something we need to aspire to around the whole coastal regions of the world. Divers are returning from the deeper part of the wrecks to carry out any decompression and safety stops they need to do. We're still observing. The fortunate thing about the shallow region around this part of the wreck is you can just carry on diving and enjoy every moment. For those who have seen previous videos, you will know I have now transferred onto 50% nitrox gas mix. My routine on almost every dive, especially if I've been down to 30 metres. It makes my diving much safer as I am now older and need to take more care. My computer for the divers among you is set to air, as are my larger back-mounted cylinders. From this angle, the stern of the SS Rondo almost looks like the bow of a Viking ship. It is unique, a one-off, and can offer a very shallow, easy recreational dive, or at the other extreme, a deep technical dive to 50 meters and beyond. How to get up close and personal in diving. Hello Sean, how's things? As you can see, the whole dive team is now gassing off. A few more minutes and we'll be back on the boat and in the safe hands of the skipper. Occasionally, sometimes in diving, recognition is triggered, and here I see the propeller shaft tube, and I can't help myself. I just have to try carefully to put the camera down it and see what I can see. I know it will have never been filmed before, and it's unlikely it will ever be filmed again, offering this unique opportunity to observe what's there. switching off the GoPro camera and the lights. It's almost time to go and return to the surface. I've no real idea how you're feeling watching my film, but to me, I just feel like I'm in heaven. Here we are, we've been underwater almost 45 minutes, and Les is still filming and finding amazing things to see. How cool is that? This was a wet fish film, with thanks to Loch Allen Boat Charters, my buddy Les Roos, dive organiser Paul Fiando, music by Dan Hennig and DivKid. I'm Tony Howells, filmmaker. This was a wet fish film odyssey on the SS Rondo. I hope you've enjoyed watching this film as much as we did making it. I hope you want to protect our home, this planet, as much as I do.